Did Peter Parker really need to cast that spell with Doctor Strange?
Peter who?
Let's unpack the magic. Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 or week 2 of our special 2-week Marvel MCU event. And this is the Team Unicorn podcast. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Sammy.
And last week was all about the Marvel TV shows, the ones on Disney Plus. And today we're going to focus all on the Marvel movies.
Yep. Phase 4 movies.
The Phase 4 movies. Similar concept to last week. We're going to kind of go over a review of all of them and then kind of rank them at the end of the show. We wanted to start off today as well with a Black Panther specific kind of review from us.
Yeah, we just watched Wakanda Forever for the second time.
Yes.
So we thought it'd be appropriate to maybe do a more in-depth review.
Just because it's just came out.
Yeah.
And then we'll take that and we'll also give our reviews of the rest of the movies in Phase 4, and then at the end again we'll rank them. And we don't know each other's ranks at this time. I had my rank a couple days ago, and it sounds like you just kind of finalized yours.
Yeah, I had them in my head. I definitely knew what my bottom ones were, and up until Wakanda Forever, I definitely had my top movie, but it was just the middle. I think the middle two.
And I'm a little nervous because I don't know if we're gonna disagree or if there's gonna be this huge oh my god, you did that. So I'm interested to see each other's reactions to this final ranking.
Yeah, me too.
So like I said, we wanted to start off with our Black Panther Wakanda Forever review here for you. So spoilers again.
Yes.
And I guess before we get too far into this, if we're sounding a little
I was just going to say,
under the weather.
If we sound kind of sick, it's because we are still sick. Spoiler alert for our Disney review episode. We both got sick in Disney.
So we're still both battling that.
Yeah.
I think you're a little bit more on the mend than I'm at right now because you've been on some medication.
Antibiotics to the rescue for a few days. So
yeah, so if it sounds a little weird or we're coughing or in a little bit here, that's
yes.
That is why, because we're still dealing with that post Disney bug sinus pressure cough issue. So
yeah.
But that didn't stop us. It didn't deter us from
Yes.
seeing Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Would you like to start off with your initial thoughts on it?
Okay, so my initial thoughts were I was prepared to cry for this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I was told however much you're gonna cry, double it. But I really wasn't expecting to cry that much during the movie, especially the first time. The second time, I obviously knew what was coming, and
Mm-hmm.
I could prepare myself, but I still it's the tears still came. But I think my initial thought was just what a tribute to Chadwick Boseman and his Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just my overall takeaway from this movie. And I think they did an amazing job with that. So
yeah, there's a lot of Chadwick's T'Challa character that resonates quite a bit throughout this movie. It's evident right away.
Oh yeah,
at the beginning.
And there's so many callbacks to Black Panther, the original, or the first one.
Well, even callbacks to Civil War and Infinity War. You get all those kind of little small details that kind of harken back to the character development that you see in Chadwick or in T'Challa, and how that kind of shapes Shuri or Nakia or the Queen Ramonda. But as you said, you start off crying right away. You're initially met with the king is dying of some unknown disease. Shuri is trying her best to try to replicate the heart-shaped herb, and she is just not having a lot of success. And by the time she finds something, I think it's only 29% succession rate. We find out that T'Challa has passed.
Yeah.
And then you go right into
the funeral.
a funeral scene, and that was kind of teased a little bit in the trailers. Like you saw like kind of like this big, it was a celebration.
Yeah.
So like you knew that was coming, but
Right.
like how it played out in the theaters on the screen, like I wasn't prepared for it.
Right. Also, when they take his coffin up, like, where does it go?
I don't know.
Because I've thought that like both times I watched it, like where are they taking it?
Yeah, because I mean they don't address it with T'Chaka, you know, when he is killed in Civil War, and how that kind of pans out in the first Black Panther film. You don't see that whole ritual portion of it. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I was just curious. It was just one of those things like, well, what do they do with that? But yeah, and then you go into the Marvel
the opening title.
Yeah, like logo. It's all silent.
And it's all changed to
Chadwick and T'Challa.
And I knew that was going to happen. They did the same thing with Stan Lee, and it hit me just as hard with Stan Lee. It was. I wish we had like a more like receptive crowd with us, because like I would have been more inclined to like cheer, or like I was hoping for like audible gasps, or like hearing more crying, and we just didn't get that in like our theater, which kind of stinks. But it was a very moving tribute to Chadwick, and to, you know, the character of the Black Panther.
Right.
And so right away you're dealing with, you know, his funeral, and then you see that.
You're already in tears, like the first couple minutes of this film, like.
And then just the basic premise of the story is that, you know, Shuri's kind of given up at one point on this heart-shaped herb. You know, she's, you know, kind of come to the fact that there is no more Black Panther. You know, she tells Okoye and Queen Ramonda, like, you know, we need to focus on our technologies. Like, we need to focus on, you know, future attacks like this. We can't just be reliant on this legend of the Black Panther, which then leads to a conflict once I think it's France is out trying to mine and finding some vibranium outside of Wakanda. And they are able to find it because of technology.
Like this machine that will detect vibranium,
and that turns out to be created by a 19-year-old college student, Riri Williams.
Yes, who attends MIT. That gets brought up.
Yeah, and I really love Riri's introduction to the MCU in this film. It makes perfect sense to me, and how this all kind of fits in. And then it's basically just Shuri and Okoye who are trying to protect Riri.
So they want to get her back to Wakanda so that they can keep her safe and like kind of figure out what's going on.
Right. While, you know, this vibranium, it's found in the deep ocean. And that kind of, I guess, pisses off Talokan and Namor, which is our main villain of the movie. What did you think of Namor?
I really liked him. He's probably one of my favorite villains.
I would say he's I have my notes here. I'm gonna start taking them out so I can remember. But he is honestly one of like the best villains I think that we have seen in the MCU, and he's very much like Killmonger.
Yes, and that's why I think I like him so much, because I really enjoyed Killmonger. I thought he was a great villain, and he definitely I think mirrors like some aspects of Killmonger, and maybe even elevates them a little bit. But like just his demeanor, like I don't know, like he's just very serious, but then also like very like to his people, like he's very kind and loving like for his people, and like wants to do like the best for them, but also like will do anything to get that.
Right. And it's really nice to see that they've had it quite a bit, and we'll get to it more with other movies in Phase 4. But like trying to get characters that are somewhat relatable
Yep.
to the audience or relatable to the hero of the film. But I mean, I just feel out of any of them, Namor just really just knocks it out of the park. Like this
Yeah.
is just textbook how you write a good, and I wouldn't even say a villain, just an antagonist, because so
Yeah.
you can like Killmonger in the first one, you can understand what he's doing. You can understand the reasons and the motivation behind the aggression, and if you look at it from their end, it's not aggression at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like that was really well written, and just I guess the movie in general felt like some of the most well written and well thought out.
Yeah, I was gonna say they definitely gave a lot of backstory without it being like I know it's a long movie, but it doesn't I don't know, to me it didn't feel that long when you're watching it. But you
Right.
still got like Namor's like I thought like a really good backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Even with like Riri, like I feel like you still could understand like, you know, you got like that feeling or that she came from maybe like a rough upbringing. Like she didn't
Yep.
come from a lot of money or she didn't have a lot of stuff, but she was very smart and like, probably got like a lot of scholarships and stuff to get into MIT, and like she's just killing it there because like she's just so smart, and like that, she lost her dad, so she's been through like some hard times, and so I feel like they did a lot like with the time that they were given.
Mm-hmm. And it's nice because like this is just kind of like a little taste of what we're going to see with Riri Williams.
Yeah,
she will be in her own series in Phase 5 with Ironheart, and I'm excited to see where that goes because they kind of tie up her story end of things with like a nice little bow on it. Like nothing, like she's safe, she's good at the end of the movie, but she has to go back. She doesn't get to keep her armor, which she eventually makes in Wakanda. So it'll be interesting to see where her story kind of leads out here. But the main kind of plot line or storyline was definitely this was a Shuri movie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I guess like given the circumstances, like she definitely had to step into the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she did it so well. Like you get to like see her grieving for her brother and just
when she was actively not wanting to
like
to
she didn't want like, and she didn't want like the like she wasn't seeking, like you said, the heart-shaped herb. Like she was just kind of done with that. Like she wasn't wanting to become like the next Black Panther.
She just wanted to protect Wakanda in the way that she knew how, and that was through her technologies.
Yeah.
But like her mom and Okoye, like kind of like were hinting or kind of not so much pressuring her, but like just like there's this expectation that like we need a new Black Panther. If it's not Shuri, it's up to Shuri to figure out how to get a new Black Panther.
Right.
So it was a very emotional story just watching Shuri's journey, just going from her grieving to like, I mean, she pretty much covers all 5 stages of grief in this film. And then just kind of her accepting that she was able to produce the heart-shaped herb at the end of towards the end of the movie.
Right.
And then not getting the results that she thought that she was going to get, but then still having to come in and be that protector. And she, at that point, was taking on the mantle of the Black Panther very differently than what T'Challa was. T'Challa was kind of honoring the legacy. He understood, what kind of shoes he was stepping into. With Shuri, I don't think that for her to become Black Panther, it wasn't from a place of wanting to honor that tradition and wanted to, follow in the footsteps of her brother. It was more she wanted to seek revenge.
Right. Yep. She was definitely on that vengeance path initially.
Yeah. I guess throughout the movie there were a lot of great scenes. Did you have like a scene or two that really kind of stood out to you that you really enjoyed, or a part of the movie that you really enjoyed?
I really loved Okoye's journey in this movie. I think her fight scene on the bridge was amazing. and like, and I love that this movie is centered around like three powerful Black women that get like their time in the spotlight, and they just shine like throughout the whole.
I would even say 4 if you include Nakia,
Oh,
Ramonda,
sure, Nakia too.
Okoye, and Shuri.
Yeah. But yeah, I think her fight scene on the bridge was amazing. I really, really loved that. Also, when she gets back to Wakanda and her, I guess, conversation with Queen Ramonda, like Angela Bassett, like just killed that scene.
Like this was like this is for your
I
consideration for Oscar
yeah,
nominations. Like she deserves this more than anything else. Like
yeah,
the way that the amount of emotion and depth and just heart that she put into this,
mhm,
and knowing like everything that was going on in the real world with like this movie was trying to honor Chadwick, like
yep,
I feel like that just gave her extra motivation to just really just dig her nails into this part. And you really get that sense because I want to say it again, spoiler alert, she winds up dying
yeah.
at the hands of Namor. And like that was like another part where I'm just like, I can't stop crying.
I know. And especially like for Shuri, like I mean, she, loses her brother and her mom, like, I don't know, within a year. I don't know.
It's within a year,
Yeah,
or
because
just about, because
yeah,
they
because
say
they
that there's a
celebrate the
year.
year. And then yeah, it's like that day. That's when Namor comes. Yeah, so it's like yeah, within a year, like she loses both of them, and yeah, and in the movie she says like she just lost or the last person that truly knew her. Like, so I think,
And her heart was buried
yep,
with her mother.
yep. So just like the loss that Shuri like goes through, I don't know, like you just can't imagine it. Like, I don't know, but they do such a good job like portraying it, and I think Letitia Wright, like she did an amazing job,
Mhm.
like conveying like such emotion, with something that you just, I don't know, like how you even like pull on like those strings to make that happen, but
Yeah, and in how that affects Shuri's journey, especially like I guess one of my favorite scenes was when we find out that Shuri has created the herb, and her and Nakia had this really good, like, a touching moment where she's like, "Oh my god, like you did it! Like you finally did it!"
mhm.
And that flower is glowing, and they get Shuri to take the drink
Yep.
for her to become the Black Panther. And she goes into, and she's in this throne room, and you kind of assume that you're going to see Queen Ramonda on the
Yeah.
other side. And like part of me was like, when I saw that, I'm like, I really did not want it to be Chadwick. Like if they did like,
I know, and I was wondering if we were gonna see him like at all, like because I didn't know like if they had filmed like anything, like any small parts with him.
or if they use like past footage like they did with Carrie
Yeah,
Fisher
yeah,
in the Star
even
Wars
just a
movies.
little bit. I didn't know if they would do that or not.
And I was hoping that it wasn't going to be him. I just
Yeah.
like, not that I didn't want to see him. It's just like, I didn't think that at this point that we needed to see him.
Mhm.
I don't think I could have emotionally handled that if that
Right.
happened. But I think we were all kind of assuming it was going to be her mom.
Yep.
And then she turns around the throne, and here is Killmonger.
Yep.
And like I remember, because the first time we watched it, like I heard a couple gasps, and then like we went to the second time when we were watching with my mom and our sister. Like I remember like just hearing like the
Yeah.
like you're like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Killmonger.
Not expecting that.
And that was something I kind of expected. I didn't know where he was going to show up, but I remember there was a rumor like a long time ago, like probably like when they first started filming it, that there was this like just this oddball rumor that like Killmonger's going to be in Black Panther 2. And I'm like, how is he going to be there? He's dead.
Yeah.
Like he's got to be in the ancestral plane somehow, but like how are they going to tie this in? And at that point, like Chadwick was still alive, so like how is this going to come into play?
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
here comes Killmonger.
Not expecting that. But then like as he's talking to Shuri, like it kind of like it makes sense that he
is
showed up for her.
Yeah, it's the perfect like internal kind of like monologue or antagonist for Shuri to have, because she is very much woven of the same cloth that Killmonger is. Killmonger didn't care about the tradition. He just cared about, like, you know, what was his, or, you know, what he thought that he deserved. And, you know, Shuri, from that same point, like, she just wants, you know, she said earlier, she just wants to see the world burn if she thinks about her brother too much. Like, she is just so emotionally upset about what, you know, has gone on in her life, that she is now going to be the Black Panther, but, you know, leading from, you know, a place of vengeance and spite, as opposed to a place of, like, acceptance and, you know, I guess, understanding. All right, so I just want to go back to my notes. I don't know if you have any notes on this, but I just want to go over a few things that I had written down here. CGI from the movie, it's just stunning. Like, I thought it was amazing.
The funny thing with me and CGI is, like, I don't really
care.
No, it, like, to me, it just, most of the time, it always looks good. So when people are just like, oh, the CGI was so bad, I'm just like, okay.
Like, especially with, like, Talokan, like, it looks so real. Like, it looked like they actually, like, these were all practical sets. Like, they went down with, like, underwater cameras. Like, this was, like, legit real. I felt Namor and, like, his wings and how he looked was just, like, it was very menacing. Like, for a character, is like, oh, he's, like, Marvel's equivalent to Aquaman, and he's got wings on his ankles. Like, that sounds really silly on paper.
Sounds cheesy.
It does, but, like, he was freaking menacing.
He was,
So I thought that looked the just his whole, like, everything that happened in Talokan was, like, awesome. Like, I remember hearing reports, like, that the Marvel, like, visual effects department was, like, being overworked, and they were stressed out, and they were mad with Marvel. And I'm like, if this is the end result of it, like, I guess I don't care, because it was so beautiful. There was only one scene where I was looking and I was like, that's, I could tell it's a green screen there. But, like, other than that, like, I thought it looked really, really awesome. And then I mentioned this when we left the movie theater yesterday. There was a scene that, like, thinking about it after watching it the first time, I thought it was going to give me goosebumps, and it didn't. But it did the second time. It's when Shuri and Namor kind of agree to, like, become allies right at the end. And they go back to the big boat, and you know, he's screaming out, like, Talokan, and Shuri, you know, yells out Wakanda Forever, and, like, everyone on the boat is just, like, you know, understanding, like, there's that alliance. Like, I didn't feel it the first time, but, like, the second time, knowing what I knew about the movie, when Shuri like screamed out, like, Black Panther or Wakanda Forever, I'm just like, that kind of gave me the chills. Anything else that you want to cover on this one?
I have two things that are going through my head right now. Val and Everett Ross.
Oh, they
were married at one point and are now divorced.
I love Everett, our favorite, our favorite American colonizer.
So I remember when we watched it the first time, we both just looked at each other like, okay, that's some news.
That in the first viewing, I heard people were like, oh, like, oh my God, Val's here, and then all of a sudden you figure out, like, oh, they were married at one point.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Also, Midnight Angel costume's kind of weird for me, but I love Okoye. Like, she's just one of my favorite, like, MCU characters. And just to see her, like, I don't know, like, anything about the Midnight Angel or whatever, because I don't read the comic books, but if this allows her to continue her journey in, like, some different way, like, I'm here for it. So and she rescues Ross at the end, so I'm kind of curious where that's gonna go.
A colonizer in chains. I have one last note here, that even though there's only 2 movies in this franchise, and we did get it right at the end, if you stuck around to the end, you know, they did put that little teaser in there, like, the Black Panther will return. Like, I feel like the Black Panther trilogy of films, even though there's only 2 of them, are far better than the Iron Man trilogy of films and the Thor series of 4 films. I think these 2 films alone are much, like, the character developments, the storylines, the writing, just everything about these films, like, I would pick these two films over watching the entire trilogy of Iron Man or even all 4 Thor movies.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't really like Iron Man, but yeah, like if you compare the Iron Man movies to these, I don't think they stand up. Although there is the when Riri's in her suit and she's flying up really high and she doesn't have her oxygen.
Yep.
That's a callback.
Perfect
to
callback.
Tony.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. I caught on that one too.
Yep.
And just speaking of like that, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, like the writing for this film, you can definitely tell it was done by people who love these characters, who love the story, who want to, they want to make this a legacy. Ryan Coogler did such an amazing job.
Yeah.
I don't feel like a sequel has done, like, checked all the boxes for me. For like any Marvel movie this well since like probably the Winter Soldier.
I was just gonna say probably since the Cap series.
Like the Caps, and then I have that in here. Like it's TBD on the Cap series. If this is better than the Cap series.
Oh,
it's not yet. It's still the Cap series is still better than the two Black Panther. Like in whole, if you think about the whole picture.
Yeah.
However, I do think that the way that like there's so much love put into these two films. I mean, it's not only for the character, it's for the actors, it's for the culture, it's for everything that they wanted to express in this film. Like I haven't felt that way since the second Captain America movie. It was, people who were writing for this character because they loved the character and they knew what the character was. I mean, even with James Gunn, like he's something like that with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't feel that same way about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 that I do about Wakanda Forever.
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah.
So that was a big thing I wanted to hit on because I adore this movie. I feel like there is such a huge rewatchability to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like even if you don't know anything about the Marvel films, like if you obviously know like Chadwick had died, or if you had just seen the first Black Panther film, this is like you're gonna get into this film.
Yeah, for sure. And then before we had watched it, we were kind of going into it assuming there were 2 end credit scenes because people were mislabeling them and they were calling them mid credit and end credit scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's only one.
There's only one.
And that's a good thing you bring this up because I think this is a good part to finish on.
Yeah.
I remember reading kind of like the spoiler-free reviews, like when we were down in Disney.
Yeah.
Because it opened up that Sunday after we got back from Disney. So like we came back, or it opened up that week when we were in Disney. Yeah, so we got to see it on that Sunday.
Yeah, we saw it the Sunday.
And I remember reading a tweet from Kevin Smith, and he was like, the mid-credit scene is one of the best scenes or teaser that Marvel has ever done, ever produced. Here I am thinking like we're gonna see like Doctor Doom, or we're gonna see like King, or something like something big that's gonna progress the rest of 5 and 6 is gonna happen. I'm thinking like a surprise character, like something like that.
Yeah.
And we did get a surprise character, but not in the way I expected it. And it is, I will agree, it is probably the best mid/after credit scenes Marvel has ever shot and directed.
Yeah. So as Shuri is burning her funeral clothes, something she didn't want to do in the beginning because she scoffs at tradition and all that, but she just does things on her own time, like in her own way, and gets her own closure. But she does it, and she's thinking about her brother, and that's how the movie ends. But then in this mid-credit scene, you have Nakia come out and you see this little boy following behind her, and instantly I knew like this was T'Challa's son. Mm-hmm. Like you just know. And she comes over to Shuri asking, "Can we sit with you now? And I have somebody I want you to meet, my son." And like Shuri knows like that's T'Challa's son. And I forget his Haitian name. It's Talo or no.
Yeah, I forget. It starts with a T.
It starts with a T. And he tells Shuri, like, well, that's my Haitian name. And then he tells her that his Wakandan name is T'Challa. And, like, oh, my gosh. Like, I'm going to start crying, like, just thinking about it. So I think that was just just a perfect way to end the movie. Like, I'm glad that they ended it like that and they didn't bring anything else, I guess, from like the outside like movies. Like, they just, you know, it was like I said, I feel like this movie was just such a tribute to Chadwick and his Black Panther. And I think that was just the perfect way to end it. And
it was definitely a love letter to Chadwick and to T'Challa, and to the Black Panther fans. I just like, I honestly, I can't fault this film. Like, I don't know where I can fault this film. I really do love it. I think it's easily one of Marvel's best films throughout all phase 1 through 4. And sure. I think it's just it's a tribute to how much Chadwick and his legacy, you know, affected.
I was just gonna say, like, his impact, like, and he, you know, his character and like him, like, he obviously came in late to the MCU, but just for him to have that amount of impact on all of those, like not even just the characters, but like the actresses that like get to, you know, that they're on set with him like all the time, like just the impact that he had on them. I don't know, like, to me, just obviously as a fan, like, he just seemed like such a quiet person, but I feel like his actions spoke so loud. So, and I feel like that really came through for this movie.
Yeah. So this is our official, I guess, recommendation to go see this movie. It's incredible. You'll see where we both rank this here at the end of the episode, but I guess if that didn't give away, I guess maybe some sort of spoiler as to where it's going to end up here. I guess, is there anything that you also want to touch on this film before we start digging into some of the other Phase 4 movies, or you just want to start going on in?
No, I think that was good. I think it's probably one of the best movies that Marvel has put out. And I'm glad that they wrapped it up with this one. So, yeah, for sure. All right. Well, after our love letter and thoughts and stuff for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, we'll go back to the beginning of Phase 4.
Which was Black Widow.
Yes. So this movie, it got pushed back.
Yeah. I think like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, because of the
I think this was supposed to be like originally like my birthday movie of 2020.
Yeah. Yep, because I was actually planning on throwing you a surprise party, and we were going to go see the movie, and then we were going to come back and like we were going to have like your party because like we would be gone. And but anyways, yeah, that never happened.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, so then it finally came out in was it July of 2021?
I think so, yeah.
So but anyways, we finally get a Black Widow backstory.
Kind of, yeah. Kind of. I mean, we do get quite a bit. I don't think it's maybe the backstory that maybe everyone was hoping for.
Sure.
You know, a lot of people, especially like once it was teased with like her and Clint in the first Avengers movie about Budapest, and then we were like, okay, we need to know what happened there.
Yeah.
And then you don't get that, you know, resolution there. I really liked this movie.
Me too, because you get one of my other favorite characters, Yelena.
Yeah, Florence Pugh is she absolutely stole the show. Every single scene that she was in was fantastic. Anything that she has been in so far in the MCU, although it's been limited, has been outstanding.
Oh yeah, for sure. She just kills it every time.
So you do get to see the more of a backstory with Widow and realizing that she actually does have a family outside the Avengers. Yep. This movie like really reminded me of like Winter Soldier. Like kind of like that spy espionage, starting off with like that like really grunge female version of I forget what song it is at the beginning, like the credits at the beginning.
Oh, isn't it American Pie?
No, it's like a Nirvana song or something.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, but that song also plays into this movie too. Like you could just tell like there was just like this kind of like shroud of secrecy on the film, and like you weren't really sure like what was gonna come or what to expect. So I think that they tried to like kind of capture some of that like spy espionage type of thriller that The Winter Soldier was.
Yeah.
I don't think it captured quite the same energy, but like I think that's
No.
what they were going for, which makes sense for Black Widow's story.
Right. Yeah. Because she's on the run,
Mm-hmm.
or like, yeah, like trying to go into like hiding or whatever. So, but yeah, I don't know. Like I really enjoyed this film. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I don't know like what their main complaints were on it, but yeah, I don't know. I really liked it, and I think a lot of it just has to do with the relationship between like Yelena and Natasha, and then they're just the whole family dynamic is just like, it's kind of funny. I don't know, but like,
Yeah,
but it's like,
it's really like damaged, but it's still
yeah,
funny.
yeah. I don't know, and I really liked Red Guardian.
Oh, David Harbour, yeah.
Yeah, like he was just so funny. I don't know, I really liked it. And then
I remember going into this movie like once they announced that he was going to be in it,
yeah,
I was super excited to see David Harbour in this. I do have in my notes. I love to see that he's in the MCU now. It'd be fun to see him back in the Thunderbolts.
mm-hmm.
He's very much like that comedic strong presence that I feel like you kind of get with Tony Stark, because he's like kind of like a narcissist and
Yeah,
kind of makes jokes about it, but like I feel like the Red Guardian, on the other hand, he's like oblivious.
yeah, yeah,
Like he is strong. Like he's built, but like he's maybe a few fries short of a Happy Meal. And I really like just that dynamic of just big, dumb, and strong.
yeah,
And I think David Harbour really like plays it really, really well.
yeah. I do too. And I don't know. What did you think of Taskmaster? Like, did you?
Obviously not enough since I didn't put her in my notes here. I thought Taskmaster was okay.
Yeah.
I kind of equivalated to kind of Ghost in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Sure.
Not my favorite villain, kind of towards the bottom of the villains here, if we're being honest here. I do think that the way that they kind of attributed like Taskmaster's abilities and how like they can mirror and duplicate the person that they're fighting against was very on brand, and very true to the comics. But I guess I don't know. So something was off, and it's not because it's revealed that she's a woman. It didn't seem like that menacing of, I guess, a villain as opposed to like a Killmonger or
yeah. Well, I think
Gore.
because like you just didn't really know much about them. Like you didn't know who they were until the end.
Yeah.
So like you just knew it was like somebody fighting the good person. So
yeah, yeah, that's a good point, because like this is kind of like a weird off tangent to it. Like, do you remember in Big Hero 6 there was or not in Big Hero 6, I was thinking like the guy in the kabuki mask from Big Hero 6, but like it's the guy in the kabuki mask from Shang-Chi, which we'll get into in a little bit. Like it was his dad, and then there was like that random guy in like the mask, but like didn't really like play a big part, and it was just kind of there as to be an antagonist for like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like it was the same energy with Taskmaster. Like you can tell that they're menacing, you can tell that they're, a viable antagonist, but like there was no payoff. There was nothing really that came out of it here. And like it turns out like that's again like Taskmaster wasn't really like the main.
They were kind of like the puppet of.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I mean, we'll see what happens. I think Taskmaster is coming back in Thunderbolts.
I think so.
Because that them and Ghost.
Yeah.
So we'll see what Kevin Feige and Marvel has to come up with that. But like it was just okay with me. I think just Florence Pugh and Scarlett's dynamic was the main kind of driving force behind this film, and I don't think that Taskmaster really added too much to it. I guess
that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the movie. But I think it's mostly for Yelena. I think like if she wasn't in it, I don't know how much I would like really like it.
Well, and we knew how things were going to end. Obviously, like we knew that Nat was going to make it out. So like you knew kind of like things couldn't be that dire because, you know,
because you knew they had to make it.
And it was nice. Like, and I noticed this before, like during like the initial like the first promo for it, or the first trailer for it. You get the callback to Yelena's vest that Nat is wearing in Infinity War. So like it's kind of like, oh, like I'm starting to put those two and two together, but like Marvel was very much like, no, we're not like addressing this at all. Like you just have to see in the movie to find out. But yeah, Yelena and her super cool vest with all the pockets. Yeah, I don't have any or too much more on it. As much as I appreciate having, you know, Nat have her own solo movie, I'm sure you'll agree with this. I don't think it gave that proper send off like, you know, Nat really deserved. Like, you know, how Tony Stark had his big old funeral.
Yeah, of course, Tony Stark's.
Speaking of that, going back to the Black Panther, I saw this on TikTok. Where were all the other Avengers for T'Challa's? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like Captain America is still like, he could have showed up there. Like even like the old version of Cap could have.
I mean, unless the Queen they didn't want anybody from outside to come.
That, or like, you know, did T'Challa like kind of come to terms with them separately? Maybe. Or like, I think of anyone, like I'm surprised to see that Bucky wasn't there, because of how much Wakanda did for Bucky. Or even like Everett Ross. Like you figure like those two people out of anyone, maybe Sam, just because Zora Milaje I
think too with that, like I don't think they wanted to bring anybody, like because there are like no there's no cameos in that movie. And I think they did that on purpose. Like I don't think they wanted it to be like, oh, guess who shows up in this movie? Like I think for the overall like theme and like feel of the movie, like I don't think they wanted to bring anybody else in.
It just seems weird that like,
no, but
out of anyone, like I think like it would make most sense that you know, Bucky would have been there. I mean, he's got like his White Wolf persona there. But anyway, so yeah, like Nat didn't really get the proper like funeral or send off that I know that you were really hoping for. You know, that you. Well, really
I feel like in Endgame, like she just kind of gets
deaded.
And I don't know,
unalived, and that was it.
And then of course Tony Stark gets all the praise and all the love and whatever. Okay, moving on to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Dude, this was such a good movie.
Oh my gosh,
this was such a good movie.
And like I'm just always surprised by how much I really enjoy stuff that I know like nothing about. Like I knew nothing about this movie. Like the characters, like I didn't know what the Ten Rings really were, even though we had seen
Ten Rings a long time ago.
Yeah, but like I didn't really, I guess, make like the connection really.
Literally the first thing in my notes is for a character I knew nothing about, this was an absolute delight.
Yes. This movie like really blew me away. And I think it just like, well, I think the acting, like in the casting, like having Awkwafina as like the fun friend.
Yeah,
too.
Katie was so perfect in this movie.
So fun because like you have Sean, who's like this quiet, like
I wouldn't say he's strict, but he's very much just kind of like
he just
wants to stay in the lines.
Right. Yeah, because obviously like he wanted to get away from his father to kind of like live like just a normal life. And then he has like this like fun, loud friend. But yeah, and then just like visually, like at parts of this movie, they are just stunning and beautiful. Like when
for someone who just said in the last one that you didn't care about how CGI looked and how the movie looks.
Oh, I don't know. I just like the colors and stuff. Like I don't know. To me, like the CGI, like I don't know. Like I guess to me, like nothing like looked super fake. But no, and I think like one of the scenes that really stand out to me when Sean's mother and father like first get together and they're like I don't know like fight dance scene that they have together like that I don't know I love that scene so much and I don't know just that movie really blew me away. I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I did.
And I remember you know, before we watched the movie, I remember seeing pictures from the red carpet and seeing pictures of the cast there, and there was someone there that kind of was confusing for me.
Yeah.
And this is a point that I want to make that I really liked about this movie, is that Trevor Slattery, played by, is it Bill Kingsley?
Kingsley, yeah.
He pops up in this movie.
Yep.
We last saw Trevor kind of acting or being an actor as the fake Mandarin in Iron Man 3.
Yep.
Way back in, like, what was that, 2009? No, 2013.
Oh, yeah.
So it had been a minute since we had saw anything regarding the Ten Rings at all. And the Mandarin, and both of those, you know, are played full, you know, right and center in this movie. And they're like, yeah, some American, you know, took my name and faked it and, you know, created this 10 ring organization. Like, that's not even the real 10 rings. And then, like, it comes out like this is like, they're pretty mad about it.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed seeing, you know, them bringing Trevor back and the 10 rings. You got Abomination from the Incredible Hulk movie was in this. Wong was in this movie.
Yep.
So, like, this was a really good movie that, even though it was a standalone with a character that we haven't seen before, like, I know there's a part where, like, you kind of are don't like cameos just for the cameos, but like, I felt like these cameos made sense.
Yeah.
And really tied in the big picture of Marvel, and not just for like the last couple movies, where like Marvel will do that a lot, where they'll kind of tie in like maybe like the last movie or two together, just to kind of like say like, oh yeah, we're still in the same like universe.
Yeah.
And they did that quite a bit with like the TV shows, but like this one, like you're pulling stuff from like the Incredible Hulk movie when the Hulk was Ed Norton, like this is like so far back that you're pulling in these. Even in Black Widow, you got Thaddeus Ross coming back in. So like, I like in Phase 4 that you're getting a lot of that. Like, we're really showing you that this is a huge universe that like has been there for a very long time, and there's actors in here that have been present for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, and I think this movie just, I think it serves so well, like kicking off like Phase 4 with characters that we didn't know. Like, I think they did it so well, because you get that so much in Phase 4. Obviously, because, you know, Phase 3, you know, you got it kind of wrapped up with Endgame and stuff. So you're having to like branch out to these like new characters, but like you said, like tying them back like so far back. Yeah, I think they did an incredible job with that. Yeah.
And on that point, like, I feel like this movie, just like what it was, what the story was, introducing like this new like mystical side of the MCU, which they did that quite a bit in Phase 4. But I feel like just to kind of kick that off, it was really refreshing. It was like something we hadn't seen in Marvel in a really long time. I feel like this type of movie, we hadn't seen like that level of like just throw it on the writing room wall and see if it sticks, and whatever works. Since like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1.
Yeah, I think so too.
It was so unique. It was like, I guess it's refreshing to see something like that in the MCU. And I really dug this movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me too. I remember coming out of the theater, like I loved it. And it's definitely one that I've rewatched since then. Like
that bus scene.
Oh yeah, the bus. Oh.
That is one of the best fight scenes especially in Phase 4. But like, it's something that one of the best fight scenes that Marvel has done. Was that fight scene going through San Francisco on the bus.
That was good. Oh, and then that like the scaffolding like on the side of the building when they're in like the fight club.
Oh
like,
yeah,
like that's so good too. Yeah, like the cute little creature characters. Like, I'm all about like the little creatures. Like, and they look so cute.
And Morris.
Yeah, like he's just so cute. So yeah, and you get so many different ones. Once you're in, I forget the name of their
the realm or the
but yeah, you get so many different ones there, and yeah, I just love seeing those.
Yeah, and I guess I'll end with the fact that like, I really like the fact that they're kind of going all in on Shang and even Katie there to say like, hey, you're an Avenger. Like that last, I think it's the mid-credit or the end credit scene, they're kind of talking about the bands and what they all mean. And you know, they're having a conversation with with Bruce
Bruce.
and Captain Marvel, and I think Okoye is there as well.
Yeah.
So like they're pretty much like, hey, like you got to be on standby now. Like
Yeah.
we might need to call you here because you know you're one of us now.
Yep.
So I thought that was pretty cool, and it kind of like reminded me of like when Tony Stark kind of like went to Spider-Man is like, you're an Avenger now. Like
Mhm.
it kind of felt like one of those moments.
Yeah, and I just love that they did that. Like for this movie, you know, I don't. You know, for me, like I didn't know anything about it, you know, but you're just like, okay, like he's like a big deal. Like, you know, this is gonna be like big.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of what probably should have been a big deal in the MCU, but I don't really think was the Eternals, which is our next film that came out.
Yeah. What was that movie about again?
Yeah, that it had so much potential. I thought it was going to do a lot more for the MCU. It, for whatever reason, it didn't do it for me.
Yeah,
it seemed too messy. There was too many characters. There was characters I actively did not like in the Eternals lineup. So like just the majority of it, like I just kind of like it's not even mid. Like it's definitely on the lower end of the entire MCU for me.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that I can't really remember much about like the story. Like the only things that I really remember is like they end up all going like their separate ways, and they kind of live like their separate lives for like a little while, and then they come together and defeat a bad guy.
And for whatever reason, the reason that they all came together was not Thanos.
Yeah.
Like you figure like that would have been like, this is like multiverse, different universe shattering event with Thanos. Right. And then they're like, not my spot here, bro.
Yeah. So I don't I know that gets brought up a lot, like with certain characters and stuff, like, well, where were they when they were trying to defeat Thanos? And like I really don't like it when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Captain Marvel gets that so much, and I hate that she
like, I think between like
hate, she gets hate for it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and between like Captain Marvel or like the entire roster of the Eternals, like you'd figure like maybe be more upset the Eternals didn't show up.
Right.
Yeah, it's difficult, like you said, to remember what happened in this movie. I remember like bits and pieces of like certain character arcs.
Yeah. Well, and I know they had the first deaf character. Mm-hmm. So then there was like, you know, signing and stuff, which I thought was really cool.
Really awesome.
So I do remember that.
And like I remember Kingo, because like he was probably like one of the most memorable characters, and like I don't remember what his buddy's name was, the guy that went around and like video like recorded him all the time.
Oh yeah.
So like I liked Kingo, and it seems like Kingo's gonna show up a little bit more throughout the MCU. He's already made little cameo appearances in Miss Marvel and some other projects. But all in all, like, sure, you've got an Academy Award winning actor or director, and you've got like Angelina Jolie, and you got Salma Hayek, and you got all these, you know, award-winning.
You had Harry Styles in here.
Hey, that is my last note, and it's in capital letters.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to think. There was a lot of because wasn't that the guy from
Kit Harington?
Kit Harington. There's a lot of big names.
There's a lot of big names, and it's nice. Like I know, like Kit Harington, we got like a little future glimpse of like he'll be in it a little bit, or he'll show up, you know, in future. But like just in all, like I don't really think like this.
I think like it was just setting up for like the ending, because like wasn't the ending like a big part? Like they're setting up a different character.
Yeah, and even then, like at the end of the movie, there's this giant like celestial, just like in like an ocean, just chilling, and I'm like, are we not gonna address this? We're just gonna let it sit there and just be like, hey, we've got another movie coming up in a little bit. We're just gonna like, to me, like the whole celestial thing was just like, this seemed to be like a way bigger villain or like, you know, event for a movie that just didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
And then Harry Styles is at the end of it. I think that's probably one of like the most exciting parts of this movie, and it's just like it's like the end credit scene.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's what I was talking about. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I've rewatched it since we watched it in theaters, and I don't
No.
really have a desire. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I should. Maybe that'll make us like it more. We just saw it once, and it just was.
I mean, if
okay.
something happens in like Phase 5 where they're like, oh, like that played a big, role coming up, maybe I'll watch it again. But like,
Yeah.
it just the story didn't do it for me. Like it wasn't there.
Yep. All right.
On to the next one.
On to the next one.
That is Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yes.
This was a good one.
This was a good one. This was also heavily spoiled by Marvel, which I did not appreciate. Hence why I don't like watching trailers. And it was so hard to stay away from this one. And
this was a big one.
It really pissed me off.
And I don't know if it's Marvel or if it was more Sony or if they did it together, because it seemed like Sony has an issue with just going off and just being like, you want something, we're going to give it to you. We're going to tell you all about it.
Yeah, we're just going to promote like the crap out of it and just like show you secrets and stuff. And yeah, so maybe Marvel didn't have a lot to say, but I don't know. Either way, it really made me mad because it like everybody knew that like the 3 Spider-Man were going to show up somehow because they were pulling villains from their stories. So you knew that they were coming. I mean, you obviously didn't know like maybe where in the movie, but yeah, so it would have been so nice, like, had we not known the 3 Spider-Men were coming, everyone would have peed their pants.
Yeah, and I think
because I mean we still got excited, but like, could you imagine, like, you had no idea?
Yeah, this movie was super like nostalgic serotonin overload for me.
Yeah,
with seeing Tobey back in this movie. And we kind of mentioned it, I think, in earlier this episode, where the cameo just for cameo's sake. And how Black Panther did not do that.
Yeah.
I feel like Sony and Marvel did it for this movie just for the cameo's sake. They knew that people might not have been like 100% on board with like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies, which is why they were canceled. However, like, they knew, like, hey, Jamie Foxx was a really good character in there, and people really liked Andrew Garfield. Let's get him in this movie. So, like, I feel more with, like, the Amazing Spider-Man characters, with Andrew's characters. Like, those were, I don't want to say shoehorned in, but it was more like, we're going to just put these in here because, like,
right.
It's Jamie Foxx and Andrew Garfield. Right. I do feel with Tobey's characters and having Tobey come back, I do feel like Alfred Molina's Doc Ock was a really good obvious choice, just because he was like the best villain that came out of that series, alongside Green Goblin. I think that had it just had been one of the villains, it wouldn't have like been as grand and spectacular. And I feel like, it didn't need to have a lot of those villains, but like, it didn't seem too bogged down, but it just seemed like some of them were in there for like the Lizard and like and Sandman. Like, they were just in there just for the sake of having the villains there.
Right.
And not, they didn't really like support the story too much, I guess.
No, I think it was just having like, I think Peter just needed like, I don't know, Tom Holland. Maybe Tom Holland's like he just needed more stuff to do. Like, so they needed like a couple more characters like to come in or something.
And like, you figure you have like the Sandman, you got the Lizard, you've got Doc Ock, you've got Green Goblin, and you've got Jamie Foxx's character, Electro. Like, you have 5 villains right there. Like, in my mind, knowing that you have all these villains, like, are you trying to set up a Sinister Six type of deal? and that's where my mind initially went, but then they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess all the main villains went up against the main, 3 Spider-Man at the end of the scene on the Statue of Liberty, but it wasn't like a Sinister Six type of deal. So I'm just kind of like, okay, like, it's cool, but like, it just felt like I didn't need all those villains to have a good movie. Like, I just needed Tobey and Andrew and Tom there. Like, maybe going up against like one bigger villain.
Yeah.
Or even if it was Green Goblin that came over, or like maybe if it was like the Green Goblin from all three of their universes came together. Like something like that,
sure.
like I would have been fine. But like I just feel like the villains that they used were underrepresented or underused in their own franchise for a reason, and they shouldn't have been brought back for this one.
Sure.
With that said, I love that all three Spider-Man came back for this
Yeah.
movie. We've talked about it several times on the show. I love Toby. He's my Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield definitely deserves another shot as Spider-Man after this movie.
So good in this movie. Like I know I've said it before, like, but he just like stole.
I feel like he was the best Spider-Man in this movie, and that's saying a lot with me absolutely loving Toby and it being Tom's movie. But yeah, you know, I liked seeing all Spider-Man. That was really awesome. Seeing the whole Aunt May giving the speech.
Yes, yeah.
That was hard.
We finally get the with great power comes great responsibility. We get that in this.
And it's nice, like looking at it from like kind of taking yourself back and looking at the trilogy in whole. Like this was definitely like Peter Parker origin story, as opposed to like a Spider-Man origin story. So like this definitely seemed very Peter-centric. It didn't necessarily have to do with his powers as opposed to like, you know, what he did personally with them.
Yeah.
So I really liked, you know, the movie in general. What do you think this means for like, I guess, Tom's Spidey going forward?
Yeah. Just one thing I want to mention that just came in my brain when Kamala says good isn't a thing you are, it's a thing you do. Yeah, like that kind of like that line fits perfectly with this with Tom Holland's Spider-Man journey.
And I feel like that's why like I love the character of Miss Marvel so much, and like why I was drawn to her comics so much is because she's very much along the same lines or akin to Spider-Man.
Yeah. They're very similar, but one gets a lot of love, one doesn't get so much love. So, but anyways, that just popped into my head. What was your question?
So I guess at the end of the film, we find out that, you know, Doctor Strange's spell ultimately works, and everyone on Earth doesn't remember who Peter Parker is. Yeah. Now, they made it very clear it's everyone on Earth. They didn't specify which Earth, which multiverse of Earth. Is it in space? Like, so do you think that people are going to remember?
I think Captain Marvel. Yeah. Because in Endgame when he's like, hey Peter Parker or what? Yeah, you know. So maybe So I think there's gonna be other people out there that are gonna know who he is. And I think
because if that's the case, then like Nick Fury, who we know as of right now is up in space. Maria Rambeau, who's up in space. Captain Marvel, all the Guardians, Thor.
Yep.
Like they're all off world right now. So like if anyone on Earth doesn't remember Peter Parker, that doesn't say that anyone elsewhere doesn't remember Peter Parker. And I think that was a very intentional wording by Marvel, because they're gonna he's gonna come back and it's gonna be weird because Peter's gonna be like, what? I'm not, how do you know? I'm not Peter Parker. And then Nick Fury is gonna be like,
what are you talking about?
What?
I hope that like Zendaya and Ned somehow figure it out and they become, because like right now they're not even like friends anymore.
No.
You know, like they don't even remember that they're friends with this guy. So yeah, I hope that they come back, because I really like not Zendaya. Well, that's the actress name. MJ. MJ and Ned. So hopefully they somehow remember. But yeah, I'm curious to see when we'll see Peter next, because if it is, it's probably going to be in like some like multiverse like kind of event.
Maybe? I don't think so. I think we're going to
get another like standalone Spider-Man movie before.
No, I think we might be seeing pop up in the Daredevil series.
Oh,
him and Daredevil are very much New York level, street level type of fighters. I wouldn't be surprised. They already have a connection with Peter being,
Yeah.
Matt being Peter's attorney, whether or not he still remembers that or not.
Yeah.
But I do think that we'll see him sooner than later. I don't think it's going to be like the next Avengers movie or another, huge
Okay.
colossal event.
Yeah.
That's just my hope anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, overall, I don't know. What do you think? What did you think of the movie?
I think it's one of the best ones in Phase 4. I think it was maybe just a little too much at some points here.
Yeah, they definitely tried to fit a lot in.
But I think just the story between the three Spider-Men really did it for me.
Like when they say like fan service, like is this like fan service? Like when they're like, oh, we're gonna give you all these like villains, we're gonna bring in all these Spider-Man, we're just gonna give you a good old time. Like to me that kind of screams like fan service. I felt good watching. I felt like, oh yeah, I'm having a good time watching this.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't feel at the time of watching it as fan service, like being realistic and like taking myself back. Like I'm like, yeah, it probably was. But I don't think it was as much fan service as like maybe some people thought Endgame was.
Okay.
But no, I liked it, and we'll see where it ranks on my list in a little bit here.
Oh, is this going to be a surprising one?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, next one on the lineup is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
I was so excited for this movie, and I don't want to say I was let down by the movie, but like there was a lot of highs and lows in this film.
I was let down by this movie. I was expecting like, I don't know, not something like huge, but it definitely wasn't what I was expecting. And the fact that I don't know, I'm just gonna call this like WandaVision 2. Like they just like
what? Okay. I would not equate those two things. No.
They just like rehashed like so much from WandaVision.
Okay, yeah, I guess. Okay. So my note on WandaVision is that they did Wanda wrong in this film.
Yeah.
It felt, and I feel like there's a lot of people in the MCU like community, especially what I see on TikTok, is that this was a very director centric like movie. This was a very Sam Raimi movie.
Yep.
That just happened to have Doctor Strange in it. Instead of a Doctor Strange movie that was directed by Sam Raimi. And because of that, I don't know how much of the story was passed along to the director of Wanda's journey in WandaVision, because it felt like as many steps as Wanda took forward in WandaVision, she took as many, if not more, backwards in Doctor Strange. I don't like the way that they handled Wanda in this. I mean, I understand, and it actually works out really nice that she turned out to be the main villain, and it kind of became a lot clearer even before the movie, like, oh, that's the direction that they're going with this.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seemed like they kind of backtracked or retconned a lot of the character growth and development in WandaVision in this movie, just to make Wanda this very powerful sorcerer antagonist.
Yeah.
And
it happened so quick. Mm-hmm. Like when her and Doctor Strange are walking through like is it like an apple orchard?
Yep.
Yeah. And it's just like instant, and you knew like, okay, she's the bad guy.
And part of me is like, I have to understand that at the end of WandaVision, she is out in the middle of nowhere in this cabin, and she's kind of like duality'd herself, I guess, like because there's like Wanda on the porch, and then there's Wanda in the back room, and she has the Darkhold.
Yeah.
Like I have to like remind myself, like, and I guess if people didn't know that about her, like she is being seduced by the Darkhold right now. So like this is a character that might have had all that character development, but like she very much is like being taken over by this very dark magic.
Yeah.
With that said, you'd think that Wanda would be a strong enough sorcerer to be able to handle both her personal growth and what she had to deal with in Westview, and to what the Darkhold is doing to her while she's trying to find children.
Yeah. I mean, children that don't like, that's the thing, is like she made them up.
in this reality, but in I guess what she's thinking is in other
Yeah,
realities, they're not made up.
I know.
But then
It
again,
just,
she's going to a different reality where like she actually physically had, birthed children and is taking those children from her other self.
yeah.
So like that's kind of crappy.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, I don't know. I don't like that because like I just like you said, like with everything that she goes through and learns, it's just like it's almost like she didn't learn from it, or like
Yeah.
it just didn't happen. Like
It felt like
just,
she didn't learn anything from it.
and I'm just like, well, what was the point of having like that great season of WandaVision, and you're just kind of like, I don't know, rehashing everything. You're bringing everything up in just a different way, and I'm just, I don't know. So that really let me down. I think just,
yeah, that was definitely
and then
a low
obviously
part.
that's like the main part of the movie. So yeah, so definitely not my favorite.
I did have some favorite parts of this movie.
I did,
though.
yeah. Like the one that sticks out the most is the music note scene.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my like out of like a lot of like I think that scene is just so cool. I love that. I really enjoyed that.
I think that music note scene is right up there with like for me personally with the bus scene from Shang-Chi, just like how it's directed and how like how it plays out and just the fight itself. Like I really feel like that was one of the best, like I guess just fight scenes that we've seen in Marvel in recent history. I really liked although like Wanda's kind of like demented demon Wanda at this point. I really like the introduction of the Illuminati, and then her fight scene kind of like taking care of the Illuminati. So I mean we're Haley Atwell stands on this this channel.
We got to see her for a couple minutes.
Got to see her for a couple minutes, and
then she gets deaded.
Yep, and we're seeing like Reed Richards come out, and it was really nice to see that all happen. But it was a very big letdown just to see how quickly we got it, how quickly they took it away from us. I guess my other two other notes on here is that I was really let down by not seeing more multiverses. It's the multiverse of madness. You'd feel like you would see a lot of different versions.
Yeah, and I think the most we kind of get is like when Doctor Strange and America Chavez are kind of like jumping through a little bit.
And like even then you don't get a whole you get to see a little bit, but you don't get to actually experience them. I was kind of assuming like they would be jumping more through multiple different multiverses to get whatever their final goal was.
Right.
Speaking of America Chavez, thought the introduction to her was fantastic. I very excited to see her in future.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where she goes.
Yeah. So I think that was probably the brightest spot for me, was just knowing that we have this really talented actress playing, a really unique character that we got a little glimpse of her backstory on.
Just a little bit.
So I'm hopeful that we get to see more of her. It'd be really cool to see her like pop up in the Ironheart series. We've kind of gotten this little team of younger Avengers, like with Kamala and Kate Bishop, whatever Thor's daughter is doing wherever she's at. So we've kind of have this little group of younger-ish Avenger-like characters. So it'd be interesting to see where we see America Chavez next.
Yeah.
And then the final film that we have here, which we've already done a review on and a deep dive on, was Thor: Love and Thunder. I don't think we need to get too much into this since we've covered it pretty extensively in its own episode. But I really dug this movie. I think I liked it more than you liked it.
Yeah, I just remember leaving the theater and just feeling just a little let down. And I think just because I think they just try, like, I feel like with Thor Ragnarok, it just felt so effortless. Like the humor and like the character, like it just, I don't know, like they just didn't have to do much. And
at that point, it was nice, new, refreshing. Like it made sense.
Yeah. And then I think on this one, I think they just played like, I do think they just played into the humor and stuff like just a little too much for me, to where I'm just like, I felt like they were just trying too hard.
Yeah, I can get that.
And then like with Gore the God Butcher, like we didn't really see a lot of
they underutilized him
Yeah.
tremendously in this movie.
Um,
I know, like the 80 vibes really did it for me though, and the music
yeah,
in
like
it.
the music was amazing. Like I love the soundtrack. I thought that was really good. I love the ending.
Mhm.
You know, Love and Thunder and Korg. Like, yeah, I don't know. So like there's definitely bits and pieces. Overall, like it definitely let me down.
Yeah, and I get that. Yeah, this was. Well, you know, we obviously would suggest you go back to listen to the full review on it. I think we actually gave it a pretty decent review at that time. Maybe maybe over time that review has gone down a little bit.
Yeah.
But that one does have rewatchability for me. I have,
Oh yeah.
I
I mean,
watched it again.
I'll rewatch it again. Definitely, probably maybe more so than a couple of the other ones on here. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it was good. I think for me, it was just, it was okay.
Okay. Yeah. And then obviously the most recent movie that came out was Black Panther. So we have now kind of given our review and talked about all the movies in here in Phase 4. So much like we did with week 1 of the Marvel event, we're going to go through and rank them from 7 through 1, starting with our least favorite.
Yep.
And I think we're probably going to be on par here.
Yeah.
With Eternals being number 7 here. Yeah, it just makes
it is what it is. Like I said before, like I can't even really tell you much that happens. Like, I mean, many details, I guess, and like as far as like character names, I don't really remember.
Yeah, I think we can tell you more what we didn't like about this movie.
Than what we liked.
What we liked about it.
So.
Number 6. Who do you have for number 6?
Number 6, I have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
I had Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness as well. Yeah. The next few ones here were kind of, I don't want to say interchangeable, but they were very close. They're definitely in the right order for me, but they were just very close as to where they kind of landed.
Yeah. So the next two, I had to decide which one I would want to watch more.
Okay.
And I don't know, like for me, they could probably go back and forth. So.
Well, my number 5.
Okay.
Was Black Widow.
Okay.
And I'm assuming yours was probably Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, mine was Thor: Love and Thunder.
So are those interchangeable then?
Yeah, I guess like at the time I was just like, so leaving the theater after Thor: Love and Thunder, I was a little like let down by it. Mm-hmm. But leaving the theater after watching Black Widow, like I wasn't. Like I guess I really liked, and I really like Yelena. So I
remember having a really good conversation after we left Black Widow.
Yeah,
that's why we started this, and because we have those really good conversations. And I remember having just a really deep dive conversation about Black Widow. So like I could see where you would come from, where it was more
like so me personally, I think I enjoyed Black Widow a little bit more. Like whether or not you want to say it's a better movie than Thor: Love and Thunder, I don't know. I mean, like to me, I think they're like my middle of the road movies. So
okay, and then obviously your number 4 would be Widow, and then my 4 would be Thor: Love and Thunder.
Okay.
What do you have for number 3?
Number 3 is Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Really?
Yeah. And writing this all down, it was kind of, I initially thought that Spider-Man was going to be high. I didn't think it was going to be number 1, but I thought it was going to be number 2. But then just kind of looking over Shang-Chi and Black Panther, and obviously just leaving the theater, we just saw it again yesterday. There's no way that I couldn't put Black Panther higher than Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
for me. And again, it was more, I couldn't find anything really to critique on Black Panther, where I did find things to critique on Spider-Man: No Way Home. So as much as I got to see my Spider-Man, all 3 Spider-Man together, like there was still obvious faults to it. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean it's a bad movie by any means. No. The top 3 are kind of like 4, 5, and 6. Like 4, 5, and 6 were really close together. And then I think Spider-Man: Home is a solid 3 where it's at. And then my number 1 and number 2 are very much interchangeable.
Oh, I guess. I don't know. I'm pretty firm with my 1 and 2.
Okay. Do you want me to do? What do you want to do for number 2? Do you want to say it together, or do you want
to? I don't know. You go first.
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you this yesterday, that it was like, I don't think it was like a 1, 2, and 3. I think it was like a 1A, 1B, and then 3 for me. I don't know if it's just because like I'm riding that high after seeing Black Panther, but like I think Black Panther is just, again, one of the most well written, well thought out, most thoughtful movies that MCU has done, and it's done by people who love the character, who love Chadwick, who love the culture. Like they're doing it for, I don't say the right reasons, but they're doing it because they believe in it. Yeah. And not that Shang-Chi wasn't like that, but it's just the amount of love I felt in Black Panther. Mm-hmm. Is why it puts that at number 1 for me.
Yeah, and I think for me, Shang-Chi just takes the number 1 spot for Phase 4, just because it was just so different and so refreshing, and the characters and the storyline and just how beautiful it was. Like it had everything for me. Mm-hmm. And especially going into something that I really didn't think I was gonna like. Not knowing much about the characters, but they just had it all there, and it was just, I'm just like, yeah, like this movie is really vibing for me. And not that, I mean, maybe Wakanda Forever could take it for me. It's just, I feel like if you take away, like, not that you should, but you know, if Chadwick hadn't passed and like this was the movie that they presented us with, like
if Chadwick had decided that he didn't want this anymore.
Like he just didn't want to do the movie anymore, and this was the direction that they went in. I don't know if I would maybe like it as much. Like for me, like Shuri is fine, but I don't know. Like I guess it's just, yeah, I don't know. For me, I think Shang-Chi is maybe a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think with my ranking, it's just I really do play into that emotion.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, like they were really kind of, their hands were tied with what they could and could not do in Black Panther, mm-hmm. because of the the passing and the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman. But how they like recovered from it, and what they did to not only keep the franchise alive, or this character of the Black Panther alive, but then to also tribute and to celebrate the life of not only T'Challa to the movie, but like to Chadwick in general.
Yeah,
is what I think really, really makes it stand out.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think just Shang-Chi just.
But I mean, you can't go wrong with either. Like,
yeah, I think an argument can be made for either.
Yeah, and like I said,
but for me, like those are the clear like top two.
Yeah,
like 100%. I think anything else like you put up there, like I think you're wrong.
So we'd like to know how wrong you are. Let us know.
Because I've seen some people that put Spider-Man No Way Home as their top 1, and I'm just like, is it though? Like, it really beats out Shang-Chi and Wakanda Forever? I don't think it does. Like, I think you're doing it just because you're probably and I guess like it's different for everybody. If you're like a huge but like you're a huge Spider-Man fan, mm-hmm. like you grew up on those movies, and but
I know we're in places. But we're really interested to hear what you guys think. We got some really cool feedback on the Marvel TV shows, and where some people thought those ranked. But we'd like to see what you guys think about how you would rank the MCU movies. Do you disagree? With one of our decisions? Is Spider-Man that number 1 movie?
I don't think so, but I mean, it's still good. But
do you have some love for Eternals that maybe we need to find somewhere? Definitely let us know.
Yeah.
You can find us out on Instagram at Team Unicorn Podcasts. Leave us a comment there, a message there. You can also leave a comment here on Instagram or send us an email. All the links are in the description down below. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in these last 2 weeks. I know both of these episodes are very lengthy. I think last week's episode was almost 2 hours.
2 hours. I don't know what this one's coming in as, but it's probably pretty long.
Pretty lengthy here.
But
so
there's just so much to discuss with these movies and shows, and I don't know. I'm really excited for Phase 5 to kick off, and see where all these like new characters are going. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Stay tuned next week. We are going to be doing kind of a review and look back at our most recent Disney trip that we just got back from.
That's gonna be fun.
That's gonna be very interesting.
This
was definitely a trip that I don't think either of us really expected. So
it's the one we got.
It's the one we got. For this week's episode of Team Unicorn Podcast, and to finish out our big 2-week Marvel event, I am Tyler.
And I'm Sammy.
And it's been magical.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Team Unicorn Podcast. You can find us on all major podcast platforms as well as YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, like, and review wherever you are listening, and follow us on Instagram to keep up with all things Team Unicorn. And remember, stay magical.